Hi everybody, it's Colleen here. I'm going to give you 6 tips today on how to make learning tarot a little bit more interesting. So I'm not a great fan of trawling through books with text. I'm a very visual learner, and I like colors and interesting things for my eyes to look at. And it occurred to me that perhaps there's many people out there who are buying lots of tarot books and then kind of, looking at all this text and thinking, oh, I just have to trawl through all this text and I just want to learn to read tarot. So I wanted to give you some other ways that you can learn your cards and the system of tarot that make it a little bit more interesting. So the tip number one might seem like I'm contradicting myself, but if you've bought the books, you've got the books, right? So my first tip requires for you to have more than one book, all right? um, so my first tip is to actually get the card that you want to study, and perhaps even better if you've got 2 decks. And I want you to take the 2 cards from those 2 different decks, and I want you to compare the images. So first of all, it's going to be nice to look at because you're not reading, all right? So you're comparing the images and look at how those 2 different deck artists have chosen to interpret that particular card. And why, and ask questions like, why have they done it like that? Why is, the person in this card walking towards me and the person in this card walking away, even though it's the same card? What does that mean? And then take either your 2 books that you're using to study tarot and read the section on that particular card out of those 2 books, and again compare the differences. Where have they gone? They often kind of dive deep into this perhaps symbolism or even the astrological correspondences, but compare the two and see how they differ and how you feel about that difference. Okay, because sometimes the difference may resonate with you and it may sort of shed extra light, and it may also just be like, okay, that means nothing to me and I don't really care much for it. And then I want you to take the 2 guidebooks from those 2 decks, because quite often when you read the actual guidebooks associated with the deck, you'll hear firsthand from the author and the deck creator, the illustrator. Actually, maybe not always. The deck illustrator doesn't always have a say in the book, but you will understand why they have created the cards the way that they have. And sometimes that sheds an extra layer on your understanding, because you're like, oh, that's why they've done it that way. That's why the fool is kind of falling backwards off the cliff with a crystal in her hand in the Lightseer's deck, as opposed to the normal sort of bog standard Rider-Waite man jumping forwards off the cliff. So it'll tell you why the difference. I actually no, I'll come back to that one. The next tip is to listen to tarot podcasts. So the first tip was really sort of appealing to your visual sense, but your visual sense of text, because yes, you've got the books, you need to read the guidebooks, you need to read something to get some of the information. So the first tip is all about visual but text form. And the second tip is really appealing to your audio, your audio sense. And some people, learn quicker and find it more interesting to listen to things. So find yourself some good tarot podcasts and, subscribe to those. And you can listen to those while you're in the car, while you're ironing, while you're doing the washing up, all of those things, those mundane things that, take up time when you kind of think, oh, I could really be learning about tarot. But, you can, because you can multitask. I don't listen to podcasts because my mind tends to wander too much. So unfortunately, I can't recommend any good ones. But if you do know some good ones, feel free to pop them in the comments underneath, because at least then if anyone else listens, they can read the suggestions as well. So that one appeals to the audio sense. The third one, which is my absolute favorite, is to draw out your readings. Okay, so if you do your readings, if you do a daily card reading, even if it's just 1 card or 2 cards or 5 cards, 10 cards, I don't know, whatever you do. And many people journal, and many people are very happy with the journaling. And, it's a chance for them to kind of dive deep into those card draws, what they mean, how they feel about those draws, and how to kind of go with that energy for the day or the week or whatever the reading is adhering to. But not everybody likes to write lots of text, so I'm not one of those. And what I prefer to do is actually draw out my readings. So I have an A4 scrapbook, and what I do is let me see if I can find a good one for you. I actually draw out my daily readings. So what I do is I use colored pens, as many as possible, but I use colored pens to adhere to the elements. Okay, so I have my standard for fire, well, in the order that they are: water, fire, air, and earth. And that way, when I draw my readings out, I can see at a glance what elements they are. And for me, it makes it more visually appealing, because I can just look at the picture and I can immediately see, what the majority of elements are, and I don't always have to write reams of text out. Okay, so here's another one. And on some of them I go mad. I draw arrows all over the place. I draw stars. I link things together. There's bubbles, there's thoughts, there's all sorts of things. And for me, it's a nice way of seeing what the readings are about, without writing. Well, obviously I am writing, but I'm writing in response to thoughts that are coming and thoughts that are popping into my head, and I'm drawing. So perhaps it appeals to my inner child a little bit more. But what I end up with is a book full of readings that I can page through, and I can see at a glance, the colors stand out, the big circles stand out that are linking similar themes together. I link numbers together so I can see at a glance what numbers are predominant, and it just makes it a much more fun way of seeing the reading instead of just writing lots of text. What I also recommend is when you are studying tarot, that's a way to kind of draw out your readings. You can do the same for when you're learning tarot. So here's an example of a board that I created when I was learning the Pentacles suit. All right, and I collected pictures from magazines and everything that I knew that corresponded to what the Pentacles suit stood for. And I cut them out and I created a little board. And now when I look at everything, to do with Pentacles, I have a much kind of broader understanding, and I can see it visually of what that Pentacles suit stands for. And that just makes it a little bit more interesting. Then again, lots of text. Here's a similar one that I did for the cup suit. Camera's gone a bit wonky. Let's get it back again. Righty-ho. So you can see I cut out anything to do with sort of love, relationships, intuition, being creative, feelings. There's a load of emoticons down the bottom here. Let's get the camera to come back. Come back to me. There we go. And I even included at the time some astrological correspondences, which I had no idea how they even tied in at the time. So it's funny how sort of 6 years later they make more sense to me now. And it's nice because it's fun to do, and I think it's called a kinetic way of learning when you're actually using your hands. And they say the best way to learn is actually to use all your senses. So your visual, your audio, and your kinetic. So if you're looking at sort of text visually, and then you're looking at images visually, and then you're listening to podcasts, plus you're drawing, you kind of, you're fulfilling all those learning, you're activating all those particular learning sponges, as I like to call them, and it just makes it more fun. If you follow the AP Learn to Read Tarot Facebook group, you may have already seen this picture. So if the fourth tip is mind maps, to use mind maps. If you're not familiar with the concept, then please Google Tony Buzan. He is the creator of mind maps, and it's based on the idea that the brain, this is how the brain thinks. Okay, if you think about a central concept, and then you have all these little offshoots of thoughts and associations, And when the brain sees a mind map, it absorbs the information much quicker because it's the natural way that the brain learns and assimilates information. So you can use this as a way to learn as well. So if you put your, whatever card you're wanting to learn, so say for instance this card here is the strength card. And then what I did just this particular way, because this exercise was for my tarot card for the year, what I did is I went and I got, a collection of decks that I owned, dug them out and made a note of the keywords for each of those decks of that specific card. And that way I have a nice collection of fantastic keywords associated with that card that I can kind of tap into and look at every now and again. But if you're using it to learn tarot, you could perhaps put, I don't know, the Fool in the middle, and you could even, cut out a picture of a fool, or if you find a picture of something in a magazine that reminds you of the fool energy, you could cut the picture out and stick him in the middle. And then all the branches off the sides could be categories like, symbolism. And then an offshoot of symbolism would be perhaps all the things in the card that symbolize something to you. So like, his hat, the dog, the feather in his hat, the little bag that he's carrying. And then offshoots of those things again will be your thoughts on what those things mean. And you kind of end up with like a network of, well, it's a bit like the neural patterns, isn't it? And I guess that's what it's relating to. And then you could have another branch that perhaps covers the astrological correspondences. You could have another branch that perhaps covers the elemental correspondences. And every thought can branch out into another thought. And it's just a nice way. And of course, you can have, wow, you could have 78 mind maps if you wanted to do one for each card, but perhaps just start small and just do it for perhaps your favorite major arcana cards, or perhaps the major arcana cards that you struggle with, because this will help you to kind of really dive deep into that particular card, and may even help to shed some new light on that particular card, so it doesn't feel so intimidating anymore. And you could do the same thing for your favorite major arcana cards, just because it would be a super fun exercise to do. So those are 4 out of the 6 top tips. And because my whole ethos at Authentic Pathways and at AP Learn to Read Tarot is to make tarot interesting and easy and fun to learn, the last 2 tips are sales pitches, so bear with me. So I offer a Tarot Foundations course. So if you're wanting to get a good foundation in tarot and you want to learn it in a fun environment that's real and useful, then I would recommend you sign up on this course. As at today, which is the 25th of January, the next course is starting on the 6th of February. It is a 7-week but an 8-lesson course, because as soon as you sign up you get access to the first lesson, which is a recorded lesson, and the rest are tutor led, so it's done via video conference. The lessons are roughly 3 hours long, because I've wanted to try and do it so that the course is short, because people are impatient and people want to learn, and it builds, it starts small, gives you the foundations, and then slowly but surely builds up, giving you more and more difficult things to deal with, until at the end you can step out of the course knowing that you have established a tarot practice for yourself. So that starts in February. It is €245, but you can pay via installments. 3 installments to be exact. And then the last tip is, if you have done the course, or even if you haven't done the course, but you would like kind of regular tidbits on learning tarot and how to keep your interest peaked, then I would highly recommend you join my Patreon page. So here is a monthly subscription, and there are different tiers, but there's really only 2 main tiers. So you get 2 tarot related posts every week, which are not just tarot related posts with exercises, but they're actually explanations on how those exercises work, because they're intended to teach you rather than just to get you to do the exercise. And you have 4 live tutorials a month, and the lives are roughly an hour to an hour and a half. And then the top tier, who get those 2 things as well, get a monthly kind of chit chat slash group tutorial. So if there's any of those that you would like to know more about, then just drop me a message and I'd be more than happy to give you more details. But that's about it. If you have any ways that you find work really, really well for learning tarot, then please pop them in the comments below, because, you know, I just want people to feel that they don't always just have to sit with a book, that there are other ways that can be creative and that can be fun and that can be interesting. So I hope this has helped. You know the score. Please like the video and subscribe. I'll be very, very grateful. But that's all for now. Thanks then. Bye.